We pose the question, what does the Lord require of you? What is God seeking as he looks at his people? We're on number 3 today, and as we think about these traits that God's looking for, to do justly, to love mercy, he concludes this little section in Micah chapter 6, verse 8, by pointing out the fact that we need to walk humbly. To walk humbly before your God. And with your God is actually what the scripture says, to walk humbly with your God. And I think as you summarize these 3 things, this points to how we can love mercy. It points to how we can do justly, that we've got to put it into practice in our life. And so as we consider this, it's a key to how we behave is this walk. And of course, when you walk, it's not just talking about strolling down the street. That's referring to our lifestyle. What is our way of life? Is our way of life one of humility? If it's one of humility, then we're certainly recognizing that others are important. And I have to recognize the fact that I need to serve others in the way that God has helped and served me. There's a passage in Ephesians chapter 5 that I think is an important one in this context. In Ephesians chapter 5, it brings us to an interesting point as we consider this idea of walking humbly. It begins in verse 1. Be imitators of God as dear children. Then it says, walk in love as Christ also has loved us and given himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet-smelling aroma. Then Ephesians goes on to list different character traits of whether or not we're walking humbly. Are we imitating Jesus Christ? Are we doing the things that point out the fact we are the kind of individual that God is seeking? And it lists that very fact. In fact, over in Colossians chapter 1, another passage came to mind that reminded me of this very same thing when you consider this idea of walking with God and having this be our lifestyle. In verse 10, it says that you should walk worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing him, being fruitful in every good work and increasing in the knowledge of God. And so as we consider what God is looking for, what does God require? When it comes to number 3, to gauge ourselves, we could ask ourselves, what areas of my life have I not walked humbly with God? Have I just been walking out there on my own, doing my own thing? Or am I aligning myself with Jesus Christ? Certainly, as we consider these things of what God is looking for, let's keep that in mind. To do justly, to love mercy, to walk humbly with God. And so let's look at our own lives and be sure we are seeking to be the kind of person that God's looking for. That's BT Daily. We'll see you next time.